Well, so the very launch of this particular YouTube channel on the new Robinson Restoration and Service website, we promised we would ultimately get a hold of and interview and introduce you to the gentleman who actually backs all of that. And that, of course, is Tracey Robinson of Robinson Restoration and Service. Tracey, thank you, for taking the time.
Thank you, Rick.
Just getting you pinned down was
Can be a challenge.
Yeah. Yes, we're here at the facility, and I got to tell you, you stay pretty busy, bud.
Well, you know, with 20 technicians at any one given time, with probably 80 to 90 cars on the lot, there's a lot going on.
I don't think people understand the scope until they really get a look at this channel.
Absolutely.
And see how large this facility is and how much work you're actually doing. And the diversity of the work, because it's everything from oil changes to tune-ups to full-on restoration and body work.
Absolutely. We have typically 4 to 5 full restorations going on at any one given time.
Yeah, we were out in the shop today kind of counting them,
And keeping 20 technicians busy is quite the challenge, although we've been pretty successful at it. Everything, like you said, from oil changes, minor services, repair, maintenance, upgrades, installation of new air conditioning systems, as well as disc brake setups. Pretty wide range of repairs.
Well, let's talk about that, because it's a wide range of vehicles, and I think that one of the things that blows me away is it could be a 49 Cadillac 1 minute and a T Roadster the next.
Well, absolutely.
Just so much different stuff happening all at one time. How do you, I mean, your breadth of knowledge, and I know you've been doing this your whole life.
I have.
But to know, I mean, the technicians come to you on how to.
Well, a lot of them do. A lot of them do. You know, it just comes with a lot of years of just being involved with the classic cars from my upbringing all the way up through my adolescent years, where most of the cars that we work on today are cars that I grew up driving when I was a new driver in high school. The Roadrunners and Chargers, Chevelles. That's my demographics. That's where I came from.
I understand, but you've had a passion for them too. You can't just know about them.
Right.
I mean, you know a lot about.
Well, I've raced them competitively and built them from the ground. You know, it takes a wide range of knowledge, I think, in just general automotive operations to be able to bring some of these cars back up from the dead. You
know, since you pulled the cap on the racing topic, I'll deviate a little bit on what I was going to talk to you about initially. Do you think that racing helps you in this business?
Oh, absolutely, because attention to detail. You know, there's so much, as you well know, Rick, I mean, there's so much that goes into pre-race setups, the racing part of it when you're out there at the track as well. And then after, you know, you have your post-race checks. And that's when you find things that need to be taken care of, adjusted, replaced, maintained, changed, so to speak. So yes, it does help us in the environment of putting some of these classic cars back on the road.
I know that you offer racing services here, i.e., a lot of people can afford race cars. A lot of people just don't have time to prepare those race cars, which starts to make them a dangerous race car.
Absolutely.
You can they can bring them here.
Yes.
And you will go through those cars, prep those cars, and ready those cars to go to their next event.
Yes. I've got two specialized technicians that help with, and I help with them through that endeavor. So there's everything on that car is checked front to back before it goes out. All the chassis components, basically a full nut and bolt. If you
what we call a nut and bolt. Yeah, I don't think people understand. And I'll be honest with you, until I had my own race car, you know, I've been blessed. I get to drive a lot of other people's race cars. I didn't understand how much goes into prepping a car to go play.
Oh, it's inevitable. If you don't prep it, you're asking for real problems.
You are.
And there's no room for error in that environment.
No, absolutely not. But I want to back you up. I want to start, I don't want to say it from the beginning, but you've been in this business well over 20 years, pretty much your whole life. You and I both came through the dealer group, new car dealers, which is different than what you do, but I think help prep.
Well, it did. The initial setup of the way that we operate here is based on dealership service department operations and how it's constructed. I learned that through that environment and just basically adapted it to the classic car market.
I think it's the only way you could do the volume of vehicles that you do.
Yes.
With that background.
I agree.
You know, and I know you worked on the auto parts side of that as well. I think that's proven to be pretty darn valuable to you as well.
Well, we have to source parts from all over the world.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
In addition to most of the domestic cars that we have in our care, we work on a few Europeans, primarily British cars, a few British race cars, as you know, the Cobra, the Sunbeam Tigers. We work on a lot of those. Some of that stuff has to come from overseas.
Yep.
So we've got some relationships in that environment as well.
Has there ever been a car that you turn away from here because you just don't feel you know it well enough?
Italian cars?
Ferrari.
If nothing else, from the tooling aspect of it, we just don't have the equipment to work on something like that. German cars, same thing. We do work on a few Porsches. You know, a lot of one of the things that gets commonly done today is a LS swap on the Porsche 944s and 924s of the 80s. That seems to be a popular upgrade on a car that well, it's kind of forgotten about and left behind, but it's a good platform for putting an LS power plant in it and a 5-speed behind it.
I saw Bob, your lead tech on that particular side of the projects, doing it, and listening to him, it really upgrades the car.
It does. It turns it into a different animal, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, surprising. Okay, the obvious question, probably the hardest one to address perhaps, how much in 20 years have you seen people getting into the collector car market, muscle car market, cars that they cherish, you can't wait to get one of? How much has it changed? Because I know people have a certain expectation, and then there's the reality.
Well, it's changed in so many ways. If you want to turn the clock back into the 80s, when we were driving these cars and they were only 10, 15 years old, the majority of the owners at that point, at that time, they did work on their own cars. Well, now we've got a different owner. Now the owners that own these cars, a lot of them don't. They don't understand what it takes to keep it up on the road, rebuild it, service it, maintain it. So that's where we come in. We help them with that. It's changed in so many ways. The parts availability, you know, back then, the reproduction side of the parts distribution system didn't even exist. You had to source old parts out of the salvage yard or used or whatever. So in some ways that's helped us. And that also brings up a whole other discussion about reproduction parts.
I was just going to open that can of worms.
So yeah, that's a whole separate subject. I'm sure we'll touch on it another time.
But you know what? There's a reality to what you just said. When we first got into this as a hobby or a career, we were driving cars that were 10 and 15 years old and considered collectible.
Right.
Now they're 50 and 60 years old, same cars.
Same cars.
But the game has changed.
It has changed. And, you know, your auctions seem to be they're a great platform for a lot of new collector car owners to pick up on a car that they've always wanted or always sought after. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of times going through the auction, there's a reason that car's gone to the auction, and you need to find out what that is.
You know, that's an interesting statement. You know, we're going to, as we go into segment 2, 3, or 4 down the road on this thing, we're going to break into that. So we are going to be picking your brain on that very topic. Sure. I guess my last key question here is, have you seen benefits to the hobby or the profession that this growth of time has given? Are we getting better materials, better lubricants, better panels? What's improved?
A general awareness. That whole market is exploding. The people, you know, I can remember, Rick, and I'm sure you do too, back in the early 80s, we're restoring and reviving cars that nobody wanted in 1982.
Yeah.
You remember? They didn't want these cars. They were gas guzzlers. They were typically breaking down every other moment. You remember driving down the road and seeing the hoods up, and they were steaming over. Right?
Overheated and broke down.
And the Roadrunner they had been driving all these years, they just didn't give it a second look. That's changed. You know, now those cars are highly sought after, and there's a whole new market to that. And power upgrades, changing transplanting the motors out to newer Hellcat Hemis for the Mopars, Coyote engines for the Fords, LS obviously for the Chevrolet packages. So we have a big market. It's going to continue for a lot of years, keeping the vintage cars on the road.
Okay, well, that said, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have 1,000
Thank
questions, you know that.
Yes.
But for this segment, I want to thank you for taking the time. On behalf of all of us associated with the newsroom and, of course, the Robinson Restoration and Service website, we wish you open roads and safe motoring.
Thank you.